Good evening. Hallelujah. This is going to be a re-record from last night. I just didn't like it. So I want to do it again before tonight's session at 11 o'clock Eastern time. I'm just going to raise these set apart hands high in the sky and praise the Most High and say, thank you for these set apart hands. Thank you for your set apart ways. Thank you for everything you do for us. Yeshua, our big brother, hallelujah. Thank you for loving us and caring about us and coming down here and paying the cost for our wrongdoings and walking that terrible, torturous path that you walked to give all of us a chance at eternal life to be with a Father and to be with you. In your mighty name, we thank you for the Ruach. We thank you for all of the just endless, what seems like endless. I know people can be given over to a reprobate mind, and we pray that more of them than not don't. But what seems like this just incredible amount of mercy and forgiveness and compassion you have on us, thank you for that. In your mighty name and by your blood, we worship you, Yah. Hallelujah. Amen. All right, without further ado, Joshua chapter 2. And Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent out 2 men from Shittim to spy, saying, go see the land in Jericho. And they went and came to the house of a woman, a whore, and her name was Rahab, and they lay down there. But it was reported to the sovereign of Jericho, saying, see, men from the children of Israel have come here tonight to search out the land. And the sovereign of Jericho sent to Rahab, saying, bring out the men who have come to you, who have entered your house, for they have come to search out all the land. But the woman had taken the 2 men and hid them. So she said, the men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. Then it came to be, as the gate was being shut when it was dark, that the men went out. I do not know where the men went. Pursue them quickly, so that you overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof and hidden them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid out on the roof. And the men pursued them by the way of the Jordan to the fords, and they shut the gate afterwards as soon as the pursuers had gone out. And before they lay down, she came up to them on the roof, and she said to the men, I know that Yahovah has given you the land, and that the fear of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land melt away because of you. For we have heard how Yahovah dried up the water of the Sea of Reeds for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the 2 sovereigns of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you put under the ban. And when we heard, our hearts melted, and there was no spirit left in anyone because of you. For Yahovah, your Elohim, he is Elohim in the heavens above and on the earth beneath. And now, please swear to me by Yahovah, since I have shown you loving commitment, that you also show loving commitment to my father's house, and shall give me a true token, and shall spare my father and my mother and my brothers and my sisters and all that they have, and shall deliver our lives from death. And the men said to her, our lives for yours. If you do not expose this matter of ours, then it shall be, when Yahovah has given us the land, that we shall treat you in loving commitment and truth. So she let them down by a rope through the window, for her house was on the city wall, and she dwelt on the wall. And she said to them, go to the mountain, lest the pursuers come upon you, and you shall hide there 3 days until the pursuers have returned, and afterwards go on your way. And the men said to her, we are released from this oath of yours which you have made us swear, unless, when we come into the land, you bind this line of scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, and unless you bring your father and your mother and your brothers and all your father's household to your own home. And it shall be that anyone who goes outside the doors of your house into the street, his blood is on his own head, and we are innocent. And anyone who is with you in the house, his blood is on our head, if a hand is laid on him. And if you expose this matter of ours, then we shall be released from your oath which you made us swear. And she said, let it be according to your words. And she sent them away, and they went. And she bound the scarlet cord in the window. So they left and came to the mountain, and stayed there 3 days until the pursuers returned. And the pursuers sought them in all the way, but did not find them. Then the 2 men returned and came down from the mountain and passed over. And they came to Joshua, son of Nun, and related to him all that had befallen them. And they said to Joshua, truly, Yahovah has given all the land into our hands, and also all the inhabitants of the land have melted away because of us. Joshua chapter 3. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and they set out from Shittim and came to the Jordan, he and all the children of Israel, and stayed there before they passed over. And it came to be after 3 days that the officers went into the midst of the camp, and they commanded the people, saying, when you see the ark of the covenant of Yahovah your Elohim, and the priests and the Levites bearing it, then you shall set out from your place and follow it. Only keep a distance between you and it, about 2,000 cubits by measure. Do not come near it, so that you know which way to go, for you have not passed over this way before. And Joshua said to the people, set yourselves apart, for tomorrow Yahovah is doing wonders in your midst. And Joshua spoke to the priests, saying, take up the ark of the covenant and pass over before the people. So they took up the ark of the covenant and went before the people. And Yahovah said to Joshua, this day I begin to make you great before the eyes of all Israel, so that they know that I am with you as I was with Moses. And you, command the priests who bear the ark of the covenant, saying, when you come to the edge of the water of the Jordan, stand in the Jordan. And Joshua said to the children of Israel, come near and hear the words of Yahovah your Elohim. And Joshua said, by this you shall know that the living El is in your midst, and that he is certainly driving out from before you the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Hivites and the Perizzites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Jebusites. See, the ark of the covenant of the master of all the earth is passing over before you into the Jordan. And now, take for yourselves 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one man from every tribe. And it shall be, as soon as the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of Yahovah, the master of all the earth, come to rest in the waters of the Jordan, that the waters of the Jordan are cut off, the waters that come down from upstream and stand as a heap. And it came to be when the people set out from their tents to pass over the Jordan, with the priests bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and as those bearing the ark came to the Jordan, and the feet of the priests bearing the ark dipped in the edge of the water. Now the Jordan overflows all its banks during all the time of harvest, that the waters which came down from upstream stood still and rose in a heap very far away at Adam, the city that is beside Sarathan. And the waters going down into the sea of the Arava, the salt sea, was completely cut off. And the people passed over opposite Jericho. And the priest bearing the ark of the covenant of Yahovah stood firm on the ground in the midst of the Jordan. And all Yisrael passed over on dry ground until all the nation had completely passed over the Jordan. Joshua, chapter 4. And it came to be, when the entire nation had completely passed over the Jordan, that Yahovah spoke to Joshua, saying, take for yourselves 12 men from the people, one man from every tribe, and command them, saying, take for yourselves 12 stones from here, out of the midst of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet stood firm. And you shall bring them with you, and leave them in the camp in which you spend the night. And Joshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the children of Israel, one man from every tribe. And Joshua said to them, pass over before the ark of Yahovah your Elohim into the midst of the Jordan. And each one of you take up a stone on his shoulder according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, so that this shall be a sign in your midst when your children ask in time to come, saying, what do these stones mean to you? Then you shall answer them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of Yahovah. When it passed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. And these stones shall be for a remembrance to the children of Israel forever. And the children of Israel did so as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones from the midst of the Jordan, as Yahovah had spoken to Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, and took them over with them to their camp, and laid them down there. Joshua also set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there to this day. And the priests who bore the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until every matter was finished that Yahovah had commanded Joshua to speak to the people, according to all that Moses had commanded Joshua. And the people hastened and passed over. And it came to be, when all the people had completely passed over, that the ark of Yahovah and the priests passed over in the presence of the people. And the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh passed over in fives before the children of Israel, as Moses had spoken to them. About 40,000 armed ones of the army passed over before Yahovah for battle to the desert plains of Jericho. On that day, Yahovah made Joshua great before all the eyes of Israel, and they feared him as they had feared Moses all the days of his life. And Yahovah spoke to Joshua, saying, command the priests who bear the ark of the witness, and let them come up from the Jordan. And Joshua commanded the priests, saying, come up from the Jordan. And it came to be, when the priests who bore the ark of the covenant of Yahovah had come from the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet touched the dry land, that the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and flowed over all its banks as before. And the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first new moon, and they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal. And he said to the children of Israel, saying, when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what are these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Israel passed over this Jordan on dry land, for Yahovah your Elohim dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had passed over, as Yahovah your Elohim did to the sea of reeds, which he dried up before us until we had passed over, so that all the peoples of the earth shall know the hand of Yahovah, that it is strong, so that you shall fear Yahovah your Elohim forever. Joshua chapter 5. And it came to be, when all the sovereigns of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan westward, and all the sovereigns of the Canaanites who were by the sea, heard that Yahovah had dried up the waters of the Jordan from before the children of Israel until we had passed over, that their heart melted. And there was no spirit in them any longer because of the children of Israel. At that time, Yahovah said to Joshua, make knives of flint for yourself and circumcise the sons of Israel again the second time. So Joshua made knives of flint for himself and circumcised the sons of Israel at the hill of foreskins. And this is why Joshua circumcised them. All the people who came out of Egypt, who were males, all the men of battle had died in the wilderness on the way after they had come up out of Egypt. For all the people who came out had been circumcised, but all the people who were born in the wilderness on the way as they came out of Egypt had not been circumcised. For the children of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness till all the nation, the men of battle who came out of Egypt, were consumed, because they did not obey the voice of Yahovah, to whom Yahovah swore not to show them the land, which Yahovah had sworn to their fathers that he would give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. And Joshua circumcised their sons, whom he raised up in their place, for they were uncircumcised, because they had not been circumcised on the way. And it came to be, when they had completed circumcising all the nation, that they stayed in their places in the camp till they were healed. And Yahovah said to Joshua, today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. So the name of this place is called Gilgal to this day. And the children of Israel camped in Gilgal and performed the Passover on the 14th day of the new moon at the evening on the desert plains of Jericho. And they ate of the stored grain of the land on the morrow after the Passover, unleavened bread and roasted grain on this same day. And the manna ceased on the day after they had eaten the stored grain of the land. And the children of Israel no longer had manna, but they ate the food of the land of Canaan that year. And it came to be, when Joshua was by Jericho, that he lifted his eyes and looked and saw a man standing opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, are you for us or for our adversaries? And he said, no, for I have now come as captain of the host of Yahovah. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did obeisance and said to him, what is my master saying to his servant? And the captain of the host of Yahovah said to Joshua, take your sandal off your foot, for the place where you stand is set apart. And Joshua did so. A little raspy. Excuse me. Joshua chapter 6. And Jericho was shut up tight because of the presence of the sons of Israel, none going out and none coming in. And Yahovah said to Joshua, see, I have given Jericho and its sovereign mighty brave men into your hand, and you shall go around the city, all the men of battle, going around the city once. Do this for 6 days. And let 7 priests bear 7 shofarot of the Yovelim, 7 shofars of the ram's horn before the ark. And on the 7th day go around the city 7 times while the priests blow with the shofarot. And it shall be, when they make a long blast with the horn of the ram's horn, and when you hear the voice of the shofar, that all the people shout with a great sound, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall go up every man straight before him. And Joshua, son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 shofarot of the ram's horns before the ark of Yahovah. And he said to the people, pass over and go around the city, and let him who is armed pass over before the ark of Yahovah. And it came to be, when Joshua had spoken to the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 shofarot of the ram's horns, 7 shofars of the Yovelim before Yahovah, passed over and blew with the shofarot, and the ark of the covenant of Yahovah went after them. And the armed men went before the priests who blew the shofarot, and the rear guard came after the ark, going on and blowing with the shofarot. But Joshua had commanded the people, saying, do not make a sound or cause your voice to be heard, nor let any word come out of your mouth until the day I say to you, shout, then you shall shout. And the ark of Yahovah went around the city, going around once. And they came into the camp and stayed in the camp. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of Yahovah. And 7 priests bearing 7 shofarot of the ram's horn of the Yovelim before the ark of Yahovah were walking, going on, and they blew with the shofarot, and the armed men went before them. But the rear guard came after the ark of Yahovah, going on and blowing with the shofarot. And the 2nd day they went around the city once and returned to the camp. Thus they did 6 days. And it came to be on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and went around the city 7 times in this way. Only on that day they went around the city 7 times. And it came to be at the seventh time, when the priest blew with the shofarot, that Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for Yahovah has given you the city. And the city shall be put under the ban. It and all that is in it belongs to Yahovah. Only Rahab the whore is to live, she and all who are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And you, by all means, guard yourselves from that which is under the ban, lest you come under the ban when you take of that which is under the ban, and make the camp of Israel a curse, and shall trouble it. But all the silver and gold and vessels of bronze and iron are set apart to Yahovah. They go into the treasury of Yahovah." And the people shouted when the priest blew the shofarot. And it came to be, when the people heard the voice of the shofar, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat. And the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they captured the city. And they put under the ban all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and donkey, with the edge of the sword. And to the two men who had spied out the land, Joshua said, "Go into the house of the woman, the whore, and from there bring out the woman and all that she has, as you swore to her." And the young men, the spies, went in and brought out Rahab and her father and her mother and her brothers and all that she had. So they brought out all her relatives and set them outside the camp of Israel. And they burned the city and all that was in it with fire. Only the silver and gold and the vessels of bronze and of iron they put into the treasury of the house of Yahovah. However, Joshua kept alive Rahab the whore and her father's household and all that she had. And she dwelt in the midst of Israel to this day, because she hid the messengers whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. And Joshua warned them at that time, saying, "Cursed is the man before Yahovah who rises up and builds the city to Jericho." He said, "Cursed is the man before Yahovah who rises up and builds the city, Jericho. He lays its foundation with his firstborn and with his youngest. He sets up its gates." And Yahovah was with Joshua, and a report about him was in all the land. Joshua chapter 7. But the children of Israel committed a trespass regarding that which is under the ban, for Achan, son of Carmi, son of Zabdi, son of Zerach, of the tribe of Judah, took of that which is under the ban, and the displeasure of Yahovah burned against the children of Israel. Now Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is beside Beth Awen, and on the east side of Bethel, and spoke to them, saying, "Go up and spy out the land." And the men went up and spied out Ai. And they returned to Joshua and said to him, "Let not all the people go up, but let about 2,000 or 3,000 men go up and strike Ai. Do not make all the people toil up there, for the people of Ai are few." And about 3,000 men went up there from the people, but they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai struck about 36 men, for they pursued them from before the gate as far as Shevarim, and smote them on the descent. So the hearts of the people melted and became like water. And Joshua tore his garments and fell to the earth on his face before the ark of Yahovah until evening, both he and the elders of Israel, and they put dust on their heads. And Joshua said, "O Master Yahovah, why have you brought this people over to the Jordan at all? To give us into the hand of the Amorites? To destroy us? If only we had been content to stay beyond the Jordan. O Yahovah, what do I say when Israel turns its back before its enemies, and the Canaanites and all the inhabitants of the land hear, and shall surround us and cut off our name from the earth? What then do we do for your great name?" And Yahovah said to Joshua, "Rise up. Why are you lying on your face? Israel has sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant which I commanded them. And they have even taken some of that which is under the ban, and have both stolen and deceived, and also put it among their own goods. And the sons of Israel shall not be able to stand before their enemies. They are going to turn their backs before their enemies, for they have become accursed. I am not with you anymore, unless you destroy that which is under the ban from your midst. Rise up, set the people apart, and you shall say, set yourselves apart for tomorrow, because thus said Yahovah Elohim of Israel, that which is under the ban is in your midst, O Israel. You are not able to stand before your enemies until you put away that which is under the ban out of your midst. And you shall be brought near in the morning according to your tribes, and it shall be the tribe which Yahovah takes comes according to clans. And the clan which Yahovah takes comes by households, and the household which Yahovah takes comes by men. And it shall be that he who is taken with that which is under the ban is burned with fire, he and all that he has, because he has transgressed the covenant of Yahovah, and because he has committed wickedness in Israel. So Joshua arose early in the morning and brought Israel by their tribes, and the tribe of Judah was taken. And he brought the clan of Judah, and he took the clan of the Zarhites. And he brought the clan of the Zarhites by men, and Zabdi was taken. And he brought his household by men, and Achan, son of Carmi, son of Zabdi, son of Zerach, of the tribe of Judah, was taken. Then Joshua said to Achan, My son, now give esteem to Yahovah Elohim of Israel, and make confession to him. And please declare to me what you have done. Do not hide it from me. So Achan answered Joshua and said, Truly, I have sinned against Yahovah Elohim of Israel, and this is what I did. When I saw among the spoil a lovely garment from Shinar, and 200 shekels of silver and a wedge of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them and took them. And see, they are hidden in the ground in the midst of my tent with the silver under it. And Joshua sent messengers, and they ran to the tent, and see, it was hidden in his tent with the silver under it. And they took them from the midst of the tent, brought them to Joshua and to all the children of Israel, and laid them out before Yahovah. Then Joshua and all Israel with him took Achan, son of Zerach, and the silver and the garment and the wedge of gold and his sons and his daughters and his oxen and his donkey and his sheep and his tent and all that he had, and they brought them to the valley of Achor. And Joshua said, Why have you troubled us? Yahovah does trouble you today. Then all Israel stoned him with stones, and they burned them with fire after they had stoned them with stones. And they raised over them a great heap of stones, which remains to this day. Then Yahovah turned from his fierceness of his displeasure. Therefore, the name of that place has been called the Valley of Achor, or the Valley of Achor, to this day. Joshua chapter 8. And Yahovah said to Joshua, Do not be afraid nor be discouraged. Take all the soldiers with you, and arise, go up to Ai. See, I have given into your hand the sovereign of Ai, and his people, and his city, and his land. So you shall do to Ai and its sovereign as you did to Jericho and its sovereign. Only its spoil and its livestock you take as plunder for yourselves. Set for yourselves an ambush for the city behind it. And Joshua and all the soldiers rose up to go up to Ai, and Joshua chose 30,000 mighty, brave men and sent them away by night, and commanded them, saying, See, you are going to lie in ambush against the city behind the city. Do not go very far from the city, but all of you shall be prepared while I and all the people who are with me approach the city. And it shall be, when they come out against us as formerly, that we shall flee before them. And they shall come out after us till we have drawn them from the city, as though saying, They are fleeing before us as formerly. And we shall flee before them. Then you shall rise from the ambush and seize the city, and Yahovah your Elohim shall give it into your hand. And it shall be, when you capture the city, that you burn the city with fire. Do according to the word of Yahovah. See, I have commanded you. And Joshua sent them out, and they went to lie in ambush and stayed between Bethel and Ai, and on the west side of Ai. But Joshua stayed that night in the midst of the people. And Joshua rose up early in the morning and inspected the people, and went up, he and the elders of Israel, before the people to Ai. And all the soldiers who were with him went up and drew near, and came before the city, and camped on the north side of Ai, with the valley between them and Ai. And he took about 5,000 men and set them in ambush between Bethel and Ai, on the west side of the city. So they stationed the people, all the army that was on the north of the city, and its rear guard on the west of the city. And Joshua went that night into the midst of the valley. And it came to be, when the sovereign of Ai saw it, that the men of the city hastened and rose up early and went out against Israel to battle, he and all his people, at an appointed place before the desert plain. But he did not know that there was an ambush against him behind the city. And Joshua and all Israel let themselves be beaten before them, and fled by the way of the wilderness. And all the people who were in Ai were called together to pursue them. And they pursued Joshua, and were drawn away from the city. So there was not a man left in Ai or Bethel who did not go out after Yisrael. And they left the city open and pursued Yisrael. And Yahovah said to Joshua, Stretch out the spear that is in your hand toward Ai, for I give it into your hand. And Joshua stretched out the spear that was in his hand toward the city, and the ambush rose up quickly from their place. And they ran at the stretching out of his hand, and entered the city, and took it, and hastened to burn the city with fire. And the men of Ai looked behind them, and saw the smoke of the city rising to the heavens. And there was no power in them to flee this way or that way, for the people who had fled to the wilderness turned back on their pursuers. For when Joshua and all Israel saw that the ambush had captured the city, and that the smoke of the city went up, they turned back and struck the men of Ai. The others also came out of the city against them. So they were in the midst of Israel, some on this side and some on that side. And they struck them until none were left, and none had escaped. But the sovereign of Ai they caught alive and brought him to Joshua. And it came to be when Israel ended killing all the inhabitants of Ai in the field, in the wilderness where they pursued them, and when they all had fallen by the edge of the sword until they were consumed, that all Israel had returned to Ai and struck it with the edge of the sword. And it came to be that all who fell that day, both men and women, were 12,000, all men of Ai. And Joshua did not draw back his hand, with which he stretched out the spear, until he had put all the inhabitants of Ai under the ban. Only the livestock and the spoil of that city Israel took as booty for themselves, according to the word of Yahovah, which he had commanded Joshua. And Joshua burned Ai and made it a heap forever, a ruin to this day. And he hanged the sovereign of Ai on a tree until evening. And at sunset, Joshua commanded that they should take his corpse down from the tree and throw it at the entrance of the gate of the city, and raise over it a great heap of stones to this day. And Joshua built the slaughter place to Yahovah Elohim of Israel in Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of Yahovah, had commanded the children of Israel, as it is written in the book of the Torah of Moses, a slaughter place of unhewn stones over which no man has wielded iron. And they offered on it ascending offerings to Yahovah and slaughtered peace offerings. And there, in the presence of the children of Israel, he wrote on the stones a copy of the Torah of Moses, which he had written. And all Yisrael, the sojourner as well as the native, with their elders and officers and judges, stood on either side of the ark before the priests, the Levites, who bore the ark of the covenant of Yahovah. Half of them were in front of Mount Gerizim, and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of Yahovah, had commanded before, that they should bless the people of Yisrael. And afterward he read all the words of the Torah, the blessing and the cursings, according to all that is written in the book of the Torah. There was not a word of all that Moses had commanded which Joshua did not read before all the assembly of Israel, with the women and the little ones and the sojourners who accompanied them. Joshua, chapter 9. And it came to be when all the sovereigns who were beyond the Jordan in the hills and in the low country and in all the coasts of the great sea toward Lebanon, the Hittite and the Amorite and the Canaanite and the Perizzite and the Hivite and the Jebusite heard, they gathered together to fight with Joshua and Israel with one accord. And the inhabitants of Givon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai. And they acted slyly and went and pretended to be envoys. And they took old sacks on their donkeys, old wineskins torn and mended, and old and patched sandals on their feet, and old garments on themselves. And all the bread of their provision was dry. It was crumbs. And they went to Joshua to the camp at Gilgal, and said to him and to the men of Israel, we have come from a far land, and now make a covenant with us. But the men of Israel said to the Hivites, it could be that you dwell in our midst, so how would we make a covenant with you? And they said to Joshua, we are your servants. And Joshua said to them, who are you, and where do you come from? So they said to him, from a land very far off, your servants have come because of the name of Yahovah, your Elohim. For we have heard the report of him and all that he did in Egypt, and all that he had done to the two sovereigns of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon, and Og, sovereign of Bashan, who was at Ashtaroth. So our elders and all the inhabitants of our land spoke to us, saying, take food with you for the journey, and go to meet them, and say to them, we are your servants, and now make a covenant with us. This bread of ours we took hot for our provision from our houses on the day that we left to come to you, but now, see, it is dry and it is crummy. And these wineskins which we filled were new, and see, they are torn. And these our garments and our sandals have become old because of the very long journey. And the men of Israel took some of their food, but they did not ask the mouth of Yahovah. And Joshua made peace with them and made a covenant with them to let them live. And the rulers of the congregation swore to them. And it came to be at the end of 3 days after they had made a covenant with them, that they heard that they were their neighbors who dwelt near them. And the children of Israel set out and came to their cities on the 3rd day. Now their cities were Givon and Kephirah and Be'eroth and Kiryat Yearim. But the children of Israel did not strike them, because the rulers of the congregation had sworn to them by Yahovah Elohim of Israel. And all the congregation grumbled against the rulers. But all the rulers said to the congregation, we have sworn to them by Yahovah Elohim of Israel, and we are unable to touch them now. Let us do this to them. We shall keep them alive, lest wrath be upon us because of the oath which we swore to them. And the rulers said to them, let them live, but let them be woodcutters and drawers of water for all the congregation, as the rulers had promised them. Then Joshua called for them, and he spoke to them, saying, Why have you deceived us, saying, 'We are very far from you, yet you are dwelling in our midst'? And now you are cursed, and you shall not cease from being slaves and woodcutters and drawers of water for the house of my Elohim." And they answered Joshua and said, "Your servants were clearly told that Yahovah your Elohim commanded his servant Moses to give you all the land and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land from before you. So we were very much afraid for our lives because of you, and have done this deed. And now, see, we are in your hands. Do with us as it seems good and right to do to us." And he did so to them and delivered them out of the hand of the children of Israel, and they did not kill them. And that day Joshua made them woodcutters and drawers of water for the congregation and for the slaughter place of Yahovah, even to this day, at the place that he should choose. Joshua chapter 10. And it came to be, when Adoni-Tzedek, sovereign of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had captured Ai, and had put it under the ban that he had done to Ai and its sovereign as he had done to Jericho and its sovereign, and that the inhabitants of Givon had made peace with Israel and were in their midst, that they feared greatly, because Givon was a great city, as one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all its men were mighty. And Adoni-Tzedek, sovereign of Jerusalem, sent to Hoham, sovereign of Hebron, and to Piram, sovereign of Yarmut, and to Yaphiah, sovereign of Lachish, and to Davir, sovereign of Eglon, saying, "Come up to me and help me, and let us strike Givon, for it has made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel." So the 5 sovereigns of the Amorites, the sovereign of Jerusalem, the sovereign of Hebron, the sovereign of Yarmut, the sovereign of Lachish, the sovereign of Eglon, gathered together and went up, they and all their armies, encamped before Givon and fought against it. And the men of Givon sent to Joshua at the camp at Gilgal, saying, "Do not withdraw your hand from your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us and help us. For all the sovereigns of the Amorites who dwell in the mountains have assembled against us." And Joshua went up from Gilgal, he and all the soldiers with him, and all the mighty brave men. And Yahovah said to Joshua, "Do not fear them, for I have given them into your hand. Not one of them does stand before you." So then Joshua came up upon them suddenly, having gone up all night from Gilgal. And Yahovah threw them into confusion before Yisrael. And they struck them with a great slaughter at Givon, and pursued them along the way that goes to Baat Horon, and struck them as far as Azekah and Makedah. And it came to be, as they fled before Yisrael and were on the descent of Beth Horon, that Yahovah threw down large hailstones from the heavens on them as far as Azekah, and they died. There were more who died from the hailstones than those whom the sons of Israel had killed with the sword. Then Joshua spoke to Yahovah in the day when Yahovah gave the Amorites over to the children of Israel. And he said before the eyes of Israel, "Sun, stand still over Givon, and moon in the valley of Ayalon." So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, till the nation avenged itself upon their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Yashar? Is this not written in the book of Jasher? Thus the sun stopped in the midst of the heavens, and did not hasten to go down for an entire day. And there has been no day like that before it or after it, that Yahovah listened to the voice of a man, because Yahovah fought for Yisrael. So Joshua returned, and all Yisrael with him, to the camp at Gilgal. Now these 5 sovereigns had fled and hidden themselves in a cave at Makedah. And it was reported to Joshua, saying, "The 5 sovereigns have been found hidden in the cave at Makedah." And Joshua said, "Roll large stones against the mouth of the cave, and set men by it to guard them. And you, do not stand still, but pursue your enemies, and you shall smite them in the rear. Do not allow them to enter their cities, for Yahovah your Elohim has given them into your hand." And it came to be, when Joshua and the children of Israel had ended striking them with a very great slaughter, till they had finished, but those who had escaped went into walled cities, that all the people returned to the camp to Joshua at Makedah in peace. No one moved his tongue against any of the sons of Israel. Then Joshua said, "Open the mouth of the cave and bring out those 5 sovereigns to me from the cave." And they did so, and brought those 5 sovereigns to him from the cave, the sovereign of Jerusalem, the sovereign of Hebron, the sovereign of Yarmut, the sovereign of Lachish, the sovereign of Eglon. And it came to be, when they brought out those sovereigns to Joshua, that Joshua called for all the men of Israel, and said to the chiefs of the men of battle who went with him, "Come near, put your feet on the necks of these sovereigns." And they drew near and put their feet on their necks. Then Joshua said to them, "Do not be afraid, nor be discouraged. Be strong and courageous, for this is what Yahovah is going to do to all your enemies whom you are fighting." And afterward Joshua struck them and killed them, and hanged them on 5 trees. And they were hanging on the trees until evening. And it came to be at that time of the going down of the sun that Joshua commanded, and they took them down from the trees and threw them into the cave where they had been hidden, and laid large stones against the cave's mouth to this day. And on that day Joshua captured Makkedah, and he struck it with the edge of the sword, and he put its sovereign under the ban, them and all the people who were in it. He left no survivor. And he did to the sovereign of Makkedah as he had done to the sovereign of Jericho. Then Joshua passed over, and all Israel with him, from Makkedah to Livnah, and they fought against Livnah. And Yahuwah also gave it and its sovereign into the hand of Israel. And he struck it and all the people who were in it with the edge of the sword. He left no survivor in it. And he did to its sovereign as he had done to the sovereign of Jericho. Then Joshua passed over, and all Israel with him, from Livnah to Lachish, and encamped against it and fought against it. And Yahuwah gave Lachish into the hand of Israel, who captured it on the second day, and struck it and all the people who were in it with the edge of the sword, according to all that he had done to Livnah. Then Horam, sovereign of Gezer, came up to help Lachish, and Joshua struck him and his people until he left him no survivor. Then Joshua passed over, and all Israel with him, from Lachish to Eglon, and they encamped against it and fought against it, and captured it on that day, and struck it with the edge of the sword. And all the beings who were in it he put under the ban that day, according to all that he had done to Lachish. Then Joshua went up, and all Israel with him, from Eglon to Hebron, and they fought against it, and captured it, and struck it with the edge of the sword, and its sovereign, and all its cities, and all the people who were in it. He left no survivor, according to all that he had done to Eglon, but put it and all the people who were in it under the ban. Then Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to Devir, and fought against it, and captured it, and its sovereign, and all its cities. And they struck them with the edge of the sword, and put all the people who were in it under the ban. He left no survivor. As he had done to Hebron, so he did to Devir and its sovereign, as he had done also to Livnah and its sovereign. Thus Joshua struck all the land, the mountain country, and the south and the low country, and the wilderness slopes, and all their sovereigns. He left no survivor, but put all that breathed under the ban, as Yahuwah Elohim of Israel had commanded. And Joshua struck them from Kadesh Barnea as far as Azah, and all the land of Goshen, even as far as Givon. And Joshua captured all these sovereigns in their land at one time, because Yahuwah Elohim of Israel fought for Israel. And Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to camp at Gilgal. Joshua chapter 11. And it came to be, when Yavin, sovereign of Hatzor, heard that he sent Yovav, sovereign of Madon, and to the sovereign of Shimron, and to the sovereign of Achshaph, and to the sovereigns who were to the north in the mountains and in the desert plain south of Kinnerot, and in the low country and in the heights of Dor on the west, the Canaanites in the east, and in the west, and the Amorite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Jebusite, in the mountains, and the Hewite, below Hermon, in the land of Mitzpah. And they went out, they and all their armies with them, as many people as numerous as the sand of the sea shore, with very many horses and chariots. And all these sovereigns met together, and they came and camped together at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. And Yahuwah said to Joshua, do not be afraid of their presence, for tomorrow about this time I am giving all of them over to Israel, slain, hamstring their horses and burn their chariots with fire. And Joshua and all the soldiers with him came against them suddenly by the waters of Merom, and they fell on them. And Yahuwah gave them into the hand of Israel, and they struck them and pursued them to Great Sidon, and to Misrephot Maim, and to the valley of Mitzpeh eastward. And they struck them until no survivor was left to them. And Joshua did to them as Yahuwah said to him. He hamstrung their horses and burned their chariots with fire. And Joshua turned back at the time and captured Hatzor, and struck its sovereign with the sword, for Hatzor was formerly the head of all those reigns. And they struck all the beings who were in it with the edge of the sword, putting them under the ban. He did not leave anyone breathing. Then he burned Hatzor with fire. And Joshua captured all the cities of those sovereigns and all their sovereigns, and he struck them with the edge of the sword. He put them under the ban, as Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, commanded. However, Israel did not burn any cities that stood on their mounds, but Joshua burned only Hatzor. And all the spoil of these cities and the livestock the children of Israel took as booty for themselves. But they struck every man with the edge of the sword until they had destroyed them, and they did not leave anyone breathing. As Yahuwah had commanded Moses, his servant, so Moses commanded Joshua, and so Joshua did. He did not turn aside a word of all that Yahuwah had commanded Moses. Thus Joshua took all this land, the mountain country, and all the south, and all the land of Goshen, and the low country, and the desert plain, and the mountains of Yisrael and its lowlands, from Mount Halach that goes up to Seir, and as far as Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon, below Mount Hermon. And he captured all their sovereigns and struck them and killed them. Joshua fought with all those sovereigns for a long time. There was not a city that made peace with the children of Israel, except the Hivites, the inhabitants of Givon. All the others they took in battle. For it was of Yahuwah to strengthen their hearts, that they should come against Israel in battle in order to put them under the ban, so that they might have no favor, but that he might annihilate them, as Yahuwah had commanded Moses. And at that time Joshua came and cut off the Anakim from the mountains, from Hebron, from Devir, from Anav, and from all the mountains of Judah, and from all the mountains of Israel. Joshua put them with their cities under the ban. There was none of the Anakim left in the land of the children of Israel. Only in Azah, in Gath, and in Ashdod some remained. Thus Joshua took the entire land according to all that Yahuwah had said to Moses, and Joshua gave it as an inheritance to Israel, according to their divisions by their tribes, and the land rested from fighting. Joshua chapter 12. And these are the sovereigns of the land whom the children of Israel struck, and whose land they possessed beyond the Jordan towards the sun rising, from the Wadi Arnon to Mount Hermon, and all the desert plain eastward. Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, ruling from Aroer, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon, from the middle of that wadi in half Gilad, even as far as the Wadi Yabok, the border of the children of Ammon, and the desert plain from the sea of Kinnerot eastward as far as the sea of the Arava, the salt sea, the way to Beth Yeshimot, the southward and southward below the slopes of Pisgah, and the border of Og, sovereign of Bashan, who was of the remnant of the Raphites, who dwelt at Ashtaroth, at Edrei, and ruled in Mount Hermon, and in Sachah, and in all Bashan, as far as the borders of the Geshurites and the Maacathites, and the half of Gilad, as far as the border of Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon. Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, and the children of Israel had stricken them. And Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, had given it as a possession to the Reubenites and to the Gadites and to the half tribe of Manasseh. And these are the sovereigns of the land which Joshua and the children of Israel struck beyond the Jordan on the west, from Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon as far as Mount Halach that goes up to Seir, which Joshua gave to the tribes of Israel as a possession according to their divisions in the mountain country and in the low country and in the desert plain and in the slopes and in the wilderness and in the south, the Hittites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. The sovereign of Jericho, 1. The sovereign of Ai, which is besides Bethel, 1. The sovereign of Jerusalem, 1. The sovereign of Hebron, 1. The sovereign of Yarmut, 1. The sovereign of Lachish, 1. The sovereign of Eglon, 1. The sovereign of Gezer, 1. The sovereign of Devir, 1. The sovereign of Geder, 1. The sovereign of Hormah, 1. The sovereign of Arad, 1. The sovereign of Livnah, 1. The sovereign of Adulam, 1. The sovereign of Makedah, 1. The sovereign of Bethel, 1. The sovereign of Tapuach, 1. The sovereign of Hefer, 1. The sovereign of Aphek, 1. The sovereign of Sharon, 1. The sovereign of Madon, 1. The sovereign of Chatzor, 1. The sovereign of Shimron Meron, 1. The sovereign of Achshaph, 1. The sovereign of Ta'anach, 1. The sovereign of Megiddo, 1. The sovereign of Kadesh, 1. The sovereign of Yokneam in Carmel, 1. The sovereign of Dor in the heights of Dor, 1. The sovereign of the nations of Gilgal, 1. The sovereign of Tirzah, 1. 31 sovereigns in all. Joshua chapter 13. And Joshua was old, advanced in years, and Yahuwah said to him, "You are old, advanced in years, and still much of the land remains to be possessed. This is the land that remains, all the districts of the Philistines and all the Geshurites, from Shihor, which is in the front of Egypt, and up to the border of Ekron northward, are considered as Canaanite. The 5 princes of the Philistines, the Azathites, and the Ashdodites, and the Eshkelonites, the Gitites, and the Ekronites, also the Awites. On the south, all the land of the Canaanites, and Me'arah, that belongs to the Sidonians as far as Aphek, to the border of the Amorites, and the land of the Gevelites, and all Lebanon, toward the sunrise, from Baal Gad below Mount Hermon, as far as the entrance to Hamat, all the inhabitants of the mountains from Lebanon, as far as Misrephot, Maim, and all the Sidonians. I myself tried them out from before the children of Israel. Only divide it by lot to Israel as an inheritance, as I have commanded you. And now divide this land as an inheritance to the 9 tribes and the half tribe of Manasseh. With them, the other half tribe, the Reubenites and the Gadites, received their inheritance, which Moses had given them beyond the Jordan eastward, as Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, had given them from Aroer, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon, and the city that is in the middle of the Wadi, and all the plain of Medeva as far as Divon, and all the cities of Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, as far as the border of the children of Ammon, and Gilad, and the border of the Geshurites and of the Maacathites, and all Mount Hermon, and all Bashan, as far as Salchah. All the reign of Og in Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth, and Edrei, who remained of the remnant of the Raphites, for Moses had stricken and dispossessed them. However, the children of Israel did not drive out the Geshurites nor the Maacathites, so the Geshurites and the Maacathites dwell in the midst of Israel to this day. Only to the tribe of Levi he had given no inheritance. The offerings made by fire to Yahuwah Elohim of Israel were their inheritance, as he said to them. And Moses gave to the tribe of the children of Reuben for their clans, and their border was from Aroer, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon, and the city that is in the middle of the Wadi, and all the plain by Medeva, Heshbon, and all its cities that are in the plain, Divon, and Bamot Baal, and Baet Baal Meon, and Yatzah, and Kedemot, and Mephaat, and Kiryathaim, and Sivma, and Tseret Shachar, on the mountain of the valley, and Baet Peor, and the slopes of Pisgah, and Baet Yeshimot, and all the cities, and the cities of the plain, and all the reign of Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, whom Moses had stricken with the princes of Midian, Ewi, and Rechem, and Sur, and Hor, and Reva, princes of Sihon, dwelling in the land. And the sons of Israel killed with their sword Bilam, son of Beor, the diviner, among those who were killed by them. And the border of the children of Reuben was the bank of the Jordan. This was the inheritance of the children of Reuben for their clans, the cities, and their villages. And Moses gave to the tribe of Gad, to the children of Gad for their clans, and their border was Yazer, and all the cities of Gilad, and half the land of the children of Ammon, as far as Aroer, which is before Rabbah, and from Heshbon to Ramat Mitzpeh, and Betonim, and from Mahanaim to the border of Devir, and in the valley of Bayat Haram, and Bayat Nimrah, and Sukkot, and Saphon, the rest of the reign of Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon, the Jordan being its border, as far as the edge of the sea of Kinneret, beyond the Jordan eastward. This is the inheritance of the children of Gad for their clans, the cities, and their villages. And Moses gave to the half tribe of Manasseh, and it was for half the tribe of the children of Manasseh for their clans, and their border was from Mahanaim, all Bashan, all the reign of Og, sovereign of Bashan, and all the small towns of Yair, which are in Bashan, 60 cities, and the half of Gilad, and Ashtaroth, and Edrei, cities of the reign of Og in Bashan, were for the children of Machir, son of Manasseh, to the half of the children of Machir for their clans. These Moses gave as an inheritance in the desert plains of Moab, beyond the Jordan, by Jericho eastward. But to the tribe of Levi, Moses gave no inheritance. Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, he was their inheritance, as he had said to them. Joshua chapter 14. Now these, the children of Israel, inherited in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest and Joshua son of Nun and the heads of the fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel caused them to inherit. Their inheritance was by lot, as Yahuwah had commanded by the hand of Moses for the 9 tribes and the half tribe. For Moses had given the inheritance of the 2 tribes and the half tribe beyond the Jordan, but to the Levites he gave no inheritance in their midst. For the children of Joseph had become 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim, and they gave no part to the Levites in the land except cities to dwell in, with their open land for their livestock and their possessions, as Yahuwah had commanded Moses. So the children of Israel did, and they divided the land. And the children of Judah came to Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, said to him, "You know the word which Yahuwah said to Moses, the man of Elohim, concerning you and me in Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought back word to him as it was in my heart. But my brothers who went up with me made the heart of the people melt. But I followed Yahuwah, my Elohim, completely." So Moses swore on that day, saying, "The land on which your foot has trodden is your inheritance and your children's forever, because you have followed Yahuwah, my Elohim, completely." And now, see, Yahuwah has kept me alive, as he had said, these 45 years since Yahuwah spoke this word to Moses while Yisrael walked in the wilderness. And now, see, I am 85 years old today, yet I am still as strong today as I was on the day that Moses sent me. As my strength was then, so my strength is now for battle and for going out and for coming in. And now, give me this mountain of which Yahovah spoke in that day, for you heard in that day how the Anakim were there, and that these cities were great and walled. If Yahovah is with me, then I shall dispossess them, as Yahovah said. Joshua then blessed him and gave Hebron to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, as an inheritance. So Hebron became the inheritance of Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, to this day, because he followed Yahovah Elohim of Yisrael completely. Now the name of Hebron was formerly Kiryat Arba. Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim, and the land had rest from fighting. Joshua chapter 15. And the lot of the tribe of the children of Judah for their clans was to the border of Edom, the wilderness of Sin, southward in the extreme south. And their southern border began at the edge of the Salt Sea, from the bay that faces southward, and it went out to the southern side of the ascent of Akrabim, passed over to Sin, and went up on the south side of Kadesh Barnea, and passed over to Chetzron, went up to Adar, and went around to Karkah, and passed over to Atzmon, and went out to the Wadi of Egypt, and the border ended at the sea. This is your southern border. And the east border was the Salt Sea as far as the end of the Jordan. And the border on the northern quarter began at the bay of the sea at the end of the Jordan. And the border went up to Bayat Hoglah and passed over north of Bayat Aravah. And the border went up to the stone of Bohan, son of Reuben. And the border went up toward Davir from the valley of Achor, and it turned northward till Gilgal, which is before the ascent of Adumim, which is south of the Wadi. And the border passed over to the waters of En Shemesh and ended at En Rogel. And the border went up to the valley of the son of Hinnom, to the southern slope of the Jebusite city, that is Jerusalem. And the border went up to the top of the mountain that lies before the valley of Hinnom, westward, which is at the end of the valley of Rephaim, northward. And the border went around from the top of the hill to the fountain of the water of Nephtoach, and went up to the cities of Mount Ephron. And the border went around to Baalah, that is Kiryat Yearim. And the border turned around from Baalah westward to Mount Seir, and passed over to the side of Mount Yearim on the north, that is Kesalon, and went down to Bayat Shemesh, and passed over to Timnah. And the border went out to the side of Ekron northward, and the border went around to Shikeron, and passed over to Mount Baalah, and went out to Yavneel, and the border ended at the sea. And the west border was the coastline of the great sea. This is the boundary of the children of Judah all around for their clans, and to Caleb son of Jephunneh. He gave a portion in the midst of the children of Judah, according to the mouth of Yahovah, to Joshua, Kiryat Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the father of Anak. And Caleb drove out the three sons of Anak from there, Sheshai, and Ahiman, and Talmai, the children of Anak. And he went up from there to the inhabitants of Davir. And the name of Davir formerly was Kiryat Sefer. And Caleb said, he who strikes Kiryat Sefer and shall capture it, to him I shall give Achsah, my daughter, his wife. And Othniel, son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, did capture it. So he gave him Achsah, his daughter, his wife. And it came to be, when she came to him, that she persuaded him to ask her father for a field. And when she got off from the donkey, Caleb said to her, what is the matter? And she said, give me a blessing, since you have given me land in the south. Give me also fountains of water. And he gave her the upper fountains and the lower fountains. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Judah for their clans. And the cities at the furthest border of the tribe of the children of Judah toward the border of Edom in the south were Kavseel, and Eder, and Yagur, and Kinah, and Dimonah, and Ada, and Kadesh, and Chatzor, and Yithnan, and Ziph, and Telem, and Bealot, and Chatzor, and Chadata, and Kiriyot, and Chetzron, that is Chatzor, Amam, and Shema, and Moladah, and Chatzar Gadah, and Cheshmon, and Bayat Pelet, and Chatzar Shual, and Beresheva, and Bizyo Baalah, and Iyim, and Etzem, and Eltolad, and Kesil, and Hormah, and Tziklag, and Madmanah, and Sansana, and Levaot, and Shilchim, and Ayin, and Rimon. All the cities were 29 with their villages. In the low country, Eshtaol, and Sorah, and Ashna, and Zanoach, and Enganim, Tapuach, and Enam, and Yarmut, and Adulam, Socho, and Azekah, and Sha'arayim, Aditayim and Aditayim, and Gederah and Gederotayim, 14 cities with their villages, Tsenan and Chad Asha and Migdalgad and Dilan and Mitzpeh and Yokte El and Lachish and Botzkat and Eglon and Kabon and Lachmam and Kitlish and Gederot and Bayat Dagon and Naamah and Machedah, 16 cities with their villages. Livna and Eter and Ashan and Yiftach and Ashna and Netziv and Keilah and Achziv and Resha, 9 cities with their villages. Ekron with its towns and its villages, from Ekron to the sea, all that were by the side of Ashdod with their villages. Ashdod, its towns and its villages. Azah, its towns and its villages, as far as the Wadi of Egypt. And the great sea with its coastline. And in the mountain country, Shamur and Yatir and Socho and Dana and Kiryat Sana, that is Devir and Anav, and Eshtemo and Anim and Goshen and Cholon and Gilo, 11 cities with their villages, Arav and Duma and Eshan and Yanim and Bayat Tapuach and Afekah and Humta and Kiryat Arba, that is Hebron and Tzior, 9 cities with their villages, Maon, Carmel and Ziph and Utah and Yisrael and Yokdeam and Zanoach, Cain, Giva, Timnah, 10 cities with their villages, Chalchul, Bayat Sur and Gedor and Ma'arat and Bayat Anot and Eltekon, 6 cities with their villages, Kiryat Baal, that is Kiryat Yearim and Rabbah, 2 cities with their villages. In the wilderness, Bayat Arava, Midin and Sechacha and Nivshan and the city of Salt and Engedi, 6 cities with their villages. As far as the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Judah were unable to drive them out. So the Jebusites have dwelt with the children of Judah at Jerusalem to this day. Joshua chapter 16. And the lot for the children of Joseph went out from the Jordan by Jericho to the waters of Jericho on the east to the wilderness, going up from Jericho through the mountains of Bethel, and went out from Bethel to Luz and passed over to the border of the Archites at Atarot, and went down westward to the boundary of the Yaphletites as far as the boundary of lower Beth Horon to Gezer, and it ended at the sea. Thus the children of Joseph, Manasseh, and Ephraim inherited. And the border of the children of Ephraim, according to their clans, was the border of their inheritance on the east side, was Atarot, Adar, as far as the upper Bayat Horon. And the border went out toward the sea to Michmetat on the north. Then the border went around eastward to Ta Anat Shiloh, and passed over it on the east to Yanocha, and went down from Yanocha to Atarot and Na'arah, and reached towards Jericho, and it came out at the Jordan. From Tapuach, the border went westward to the Wadi Kana, and it ended at the sea. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Ephraim for their clans. And the separate cities for the children of Ephraim were in the midst of the inheritance of the children of Manasseh, all the cities with their villages. And they did not drive out the Canaanites who dwelt in Gezer, so the Canaanites dwelt among the Ephraimites to this day, and have become compulsory labor. Joshua chapter 17. And the lot for the tribe of Manasseh, for he was the firstborn of Joseph, was for Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh, father of Gilad, because he was a man of battle, therefore he had Gilad and Bashan. And for the rest of the children of Manasseh, for their clans there was, for the children of Aviezer, and for the children of Helech, and for the children of Asriel, and for the children of Shechem, and for the children of Hefer, and for the children of Shemidah. These were the male children of Manasseh, son of Joseph, according to their clans. But Zelophehad, son of Hefer, son of Gilad, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, had no sons, but only daughters. And these were the names of his daughters, Machlah, and Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirza. And they came before Eleazar the priest, before Joshua son of Nun, and before the rulers, saying, Yahovah commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our brothers. So he gave them an inheritance among their father's brothers, according to the mouth of Yahovah. And 10 portions fell to Manasseh, besides the land of Gilad and Bashan, which were beyond the Jordan, because the daughters of Manasseh received an inheritance among his sons, and the rest of Manasseh's sons had the land of Gilad. And the border of Manasseh was from Asher to Michmetat, which faces Shechem, and the border went up to the right to the inhabitants of En Tapuach, and the land of Tapuach belonged to Manasseh, but Tapuach on the border of Manasseh belonged to the children of Ephraim. And the border went down to the Wadi Kanah, southward to the Wadi. These cities of Ephraim were in the midst of the cities of Manasseh, but the border of Manasseh was north of the Wadi, and it ended at the sea. Southward it was Ephraim's, and northward it was Manasseh's, and the sea was its border. And they reached to Asher on the north, and to Issachar on the east. And in Issachar and in Asher, Manasseh had Ba'at She'an and its towns, and Yivleam and its towns, and the inhabitants of Dor and its towns, and the inhabitants of Endor and its towns, and the inhabitants of Ta'anach and its towns, and the inhabitants of Megiddo and its towns, 3 of the heights. But the children of Manasseh were unable to drive out the inhabitants of those cities, for the Canaanites desired to dwell in that land. And it came to be, when the children of Israel grew strong, that they put the Canaanites to compulsory labor, but did not utterly drive them out. And the children of Joseph spoke to Joshua, saying, Why have you given us but one lot and one portion to inherit, seeing we are a great people whom Yahovah has blessed until now? And Joshua said to them, If you are a great people, go up to the forest and clear a place for yourself there in the land of the Perizzites and the Raphites, since the hill country of Ephraim is too narrow for you. Then the children of Joseph said, The hill country is not enough for us, and all the Canaanites who dwell in the land of the valley have chariots of iron, both those who are in Ba'at She'an and its towns, and those who are in the valley of Yizra'el. And Joshua spoke to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim and to Manasseh, saying, You are a great people and have great power. You are not to have one lot, for the hill country shall be yours. For though it is a forest, you shall cut it down, and its farthest limits shall be yours. For you are to drive out the Canaanites, though they have iron chariots and are strong. Joshua chapter 18. And all the congregation of the children of Israel assembled at Shiloh, and they let the tent of appointment dwell there, and the land was subdued before them. And 7 tribes were left among the children of Israel, who had not yet shared their inheritance. So Joshua said to the children of Israel, Till when are you going to fail to go in and possess the land which Yahovah Elohim of your fathers has given you? Appoint 3 men from each tribe, and let me send them out to go through the land and describe it according to their inheritance, and come back to me. And they shall divide it into 7 portions. Judah stays within their border on the south, and the house of Joseph stays within their border on the north. And you shall describe the land in 7 portions, and shall bring it to me. Then I shall cast lots for you here before Yahovah our Elohim. But the Levites have no portion among you, for the priesthood of Yahovah is their inheritance. And Gad and Reuben and the half tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance beyond the Jordan on the east, which Moses the servant of Yahovah gave them. So the men rose up and went. And Joshua commanded those who went to describe the land, saying, Go, walk through the land, and describe it. And come back to me, and let me cast lots for you here before Yahovah in Shiloh. So the men went and passed through the land and described it in a book in 7 portions by cities. And they came to Joshua at the camp in Shiloh. And Joshua cast lots for them in Shiloh before Yahovah, and there Joshua divided the land to the children of Israel according to their portions. And the lot of the tribe of the children of Benjamin came up for their clans, and the border of their lot came out between the children of Judah and the children of Joseph. And their border was on the north side from the Jordan, and the border went up to the side of Jericho on the north, and went up through the mountains westward, and ended at the wilderness of Ba'at Awen. And the border went over from there toward Luz, to the side of Luz, that is Bethel, southward. And the border went down to Atarot Adar, by the hill that lies on the south side of Lower Ba'at Horon. And the border was drawn and went around the west side of the south from the hill that faces Ba'at Horon southward, and it ended at Kiryat Baal, that is Kiryat Yearim, a city of the children of Judah. This was the west side. And the south side was from the end of Kiryat Yearim, and the border went out westward and went out to the fountain of the waters of Nephtoach, and the border came down to the end of the mountain that faces the valley of the sons of Hinnom, which is in the valley of Raphaim on the north, and went down to the valley of Hinnom, to the side of the Yebusite city on the south, and went down to En Rogel. And it was drawn from the north, went out to En Shemesh, and went outward toward Gelilot, which is opposite the ascent of Adumim. And they went down to the stone of Bohan, son of Reuben, and passed over to the side opposite Aravah northward, and went down to Aravah. And the border passed over to the side of Ba'at Hoglah northward, and the border ended at the north bay at the Salt Sea, at the south end of the Jordan. This was the southern boundary. And the Jordan borders it on the east side. This was the inheritance of the children of Benjamin according to its boundaries all around for their clans. And the cities for the tribe of the children of Benjamin for their clans were Jericho and Ba'at Hoglah and Emech Ketzitz and Beit Arava, and Sema Arayim, and Bethel, Beit El, and Awim, and Para, and Ophrah, and Kephar Ha-Amoni. My apologies. And Kephar Ha-Amoni, and Ophni, and Gava, 12 cities with their villages, Givon, and Ramah, and Be'erot, and Mitzpeh, and Kephirah, and Motzah, and Rechem, and Yirpe'el, and Taralah, and Tselah, Elef, and the Yebusite. That is Yerushalayim, Givat, and Kiryat. 14 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the children of Benjamin for their clans. Joshua chapter 19. And the second lot came out for Simon, for the tribe of the children of Simon for their clans, and their inheritance was within the inheritance of the children of Judah. And they had in their inheritance Beersheba or Sheva, and Moladah, and Chatzar Shual, and Baalah, and Etzem, and Eltolad, and Bethul, and Hormah, and Siklag, and Bayat Marchovot, and Chatzar Susa, and Bayat Levaot, and Sharhuchen, 13 cities and their villages, Ayin, Rimmon, and Eter, and Ashan, 4 cities and their villages, and all the villages that were all around these cities as far as Baalat, Be'er, Ramat, Negev. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Simon for their clans. The inheritance of the children of Simon was out of the portion of the children of Judah, for the portion of the children of Judah was too much for them. So the children of Simon had their inheritance within their inheritance. And the third lot came up for the children of Zebulun for their clans, and their border of their inheritance was as far as Sarid. And their border went toward the sea, and Maralah, and reached toward Dabashet, and reached to the wadi that faced Yokneam, and turned back from Sarid eastward toward the sunrise to the border of Kislot Tabor, and went out toward Daverat, and went up toward Yafiah. And from there it passed over eastward to the east of Gat Hefer toward Et Katzin, and went out to Rimmon, which borders on Neah. And the border went around it on the north side of Hanathon, and it ended in the valley of Yiftach El, and Kata, and Nahalal, and Shimron, and Yidalah, and Bayet Lechem, or Bethlehem, 12 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the children of Zebulun for their clans, these cities with their villages. The fourth lot came out to Issachar for the children of Issachar for their clans, and their border was toward Yisrael, and Kesulot, and Shunem, and Chapharaim, and Shion, and Anaharat, and Rabbit, and Kishyon, and Evetz, and Remet, and Enganim, and En-Chada, and Bayet Patsetz. And the border reached to Tavor, and Shach Atzimah, and Bayet Shemesh, and their border ended at the Yarden, 16 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Issachar for their clans, the cities, and their villages. And the fifth lot came out for the tribe of the children of Asher for their clans, and their border was Chelchat, and Chali, and Beten, and Achshaph, and Alamelech, and Amad, and Mish'al, and it reached to Mount Carmel westward, and to Brook Shihor Livnat, and turned toward the sunrise to Bayat Dagon, and reached to Zebulun, and to the valley of Yiftach El, then northward beyond Bayat Emek, and Nei-El, and went out to Kavul, which was on the left, and Hebron, and Rehov, and Hamon, and Cana, as far as Great Sidon, and the border turned to Ramah and to the strong city Tzor, and the border turned to Hosa, and ended at the sea from the coast of Achziv, and Umah, and Afek, and Rehov were included, 22 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Asher for their clans, these cities with their villages. The sixth lot came out to the children of Naphtali, for the children of Naphtali for their clans, and their border was from Chelef, from the terebinth tree in Tza Anainim, and Adami, Nekev, and Yavneel, as far as Lachum, and it ended in the Yarden. And the border turned westward to Aznot Tavor, and went out from there toward Hukok, and reached toward Zebulun on the south side, and Asher on the west side, and ended at Judah by the Yarden toward the sunrise. And the cities of defense was Tzidim, Tser, and Hamat, Rakat, and Kinneret, and Adamah, and Ramah, and Chatzor, and Kadesh, and Edrei, and En Chatzor, and Yiron, and Migdal El, and Horem, and Bayat Anat, and Bayat Shemesh, 9 cities, 19 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Naphtali for their clans, the cities with their villages. The 7th lot came out for the tribe of the children of Dan for their clans, and the border of their inheritance was Zorah, and Eshtaol, and Ir Shemesh, and Sha'alabin, and Ayalon, and Yitla, and Elon, and Timnatah, and Ekron, and Eltekeh, and Givethon, and Baalat, and Yehud, and Benai Berak, and Gat Rimon, and Me Yarkon, and Rakon, and the border before Yapho. And the border of the children of Dan went out from them. And the children of Dan went up to fight against Leshem, and captured it. And they struck it with the edge of the sword, and possessed it, and dwelt in it, and called it Leshem Dan, after the name of Dan, their father. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Dan for their clans, these cities with their villages. And when they had ended dividing the land as an inheritance according to their borders, the children of Israel gave an inheritance to Joshua, son of Nun, in their midst. According to the mouth of Yahovah, they gave him the city which he asked for, Timnat Serach, in the mountains of Ephraim. And he built the city and dwelt in it. These were the inheritances which Eleazar the priest and Joshua son of Nun and the heads of the fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel divided as an inheritance by lot in Shiloh before Yahovah at the door of the tent of appointment, and they ended dividing the country. Joshua chapter 20. And Yahovah spoke to Joshua, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, Appoint for yourselves cities of refuge, of which I spoke to you through Moses, for the manslayer who strikes any being mistakenly, unknowingly, to flee there. And they shall be your refuge from the revenger of blood. And he shall flee to one of those cities, and stand at the entrance of the gate of the city, and declare his case in the hearing of the elders of that city. And they shall take him into the city as one of them, and give him a place, and he shall dwell among them. And when the revenger of blood pursues him, they do not give the manslayer into his hand, because he struck his neighbor unknowingly, and did not hate him beforehand. And he shall dwell in that city until he stands before the congregation for right ruling, and until the death of the one who is high priest in those days. Then let the manslayer return and come to his own city and his own house. My apologies. To the city from which he fled. So they set apart Kadesh and Galil in the mountains of Naphtali, and Shechem in the mountains of Ephraim, and Kiryat Arba, that is Hebron, in the mountains of Judah. And beyond the Jordan by Jericho eastward, they appointed Betzer in the wilderness on the plain, from the tribe of Reuben. And Ramoth and Gilad, from the tribe of Gad, and Golan and Bashan, from the tribe of Manasseh. These were the cities appointed for all the children of Israel, and for the stranger who sojourned in their midst, for anyone striking any being unknowingly, to flee there, and not die by the hand of the revenger of blood until he stood before the congregation. My apologies. My wife was laughing because I hand signaled her to stop moving on the chair, which was squeaking, and she started laughing. And I almost lost it too. I did lose it partially, but not as much as I normally would. Oh, life, real life. All right, hallelujah. Joshua chapter 21. And the heads of the fathers of the Levites came near to Eleazar the priest, to Joshua son of Nun, and to the heads of the fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel. And they spoke to them at Shiloh in the land of Canaan, saying, Yahovah commanded through Moses to give us cities to dwell in, with their open land for our livestock. So the children of Israel gave to the Levites from their inheritance at the mouth of Yahovah these cities in their open land. And the lot came out for the clans of the Kehathites, and the children of Aaron the priest, who were of the Levites, had 13 cities by lot from the tribe of Judah, from the tribe of Simon, and from the tribe of Benjamin. And the rest of the children of Kehat had 10 cities by lot from the clans of the tribe of Ephraim, from the tribe of Dan, and from the half-tribe of Manasseh. And the children of Gershon had 13 cities by lot from the clans of the tribe of Issachar, from the tribe of Asher, and from the tribe of Naphtali. And from the half-tribe of Manasseh and Bashan, the children of Merari, for their clans, had 12 cities from the tribe of Reuben, and from the tribe of Gad, and from the tribe of Zebulun. Thus the children of Israel gave these cities with their open land by lot to the Levites, as Yahovah had commanded by the hand of Moses. So from the tribe of the children of Judah, and from the tribe of the children of Simon, they gave these cities, which are mentioned by name, and they were for the children of Aaron, one of the clans of the Kehathites, who were of the children of Levi. for the lot was theirs first. And they gave them Kiryat Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the father of Anak, in the mountains of Judah, with the open land surrounding it. And the fields of the city and its villages they gave to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, as his possession. But to the children of Aaron, the priest, they gave Hebron in its open land, a city of refuge for the manslayer, and Livnah with its open land, and Yatir with its open land, and Eshtemoah with its open land, and Holon with its open land, and Devir with its open land, and Ain with its open land, and Utah with its open land, and Ba'at Shemesh with its open land, 9 cities from those 2 tribes. And from the tribe of Benjamin, Givon with its open land, Geva with its open land, Anatot with its open land, and Almon with its open land, 4 cities. All the cities of the children of Aaron, the priests, were 13 cities with their open lands. And the clans of the children of Kehat, the Levites, the rest of the children of Kehat, even they had cities of their lot from the tribe of Ephraim. And they gave them Shechem with its open land in the mountains of Ephraim as a city of refuge for the manslayer, and Gezer with its open land, and Kiftzayim with its open land, and Ba'at Horon with its open land. 4 cities. And from the tribe of Dan, Eltekeh with its open land, Givethon with its open land, Ayalon with its open land, and Gat Rimon with its open land, 4 cities. And from the half tribe of Manasseh, Tanach with its open land, and Gath Rimon with its open land, 2 cities. All the 10 cities with their open lands were for the rest of the clans of the children of Kehat. And to the children of Gershon, of the clans of the Levites, from the other half tribe of Manasseh, they gave Golan and Bashan with its open land as a city of refuge for the manslayer, and Terah and Be'eshtera with its open land, 2 cities. And from the tribe of Issachar, Kishon with its open land, Daverat with its open land, Yarmut with its open land, and En-Ganim with its open land, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Asher, Mishal with its open land, Avdon with its open land, Chelkat with its open land, Rehov with its open land, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Naphtali, Kadesh in Galil with its open land as a city of refuge for the manslayer, and Hamot Dor with its open land, and Kartan with its open land, 3 cities. All the cities of the Gershonites for their clans were 13 cities with their open land. And to the clans of the children of Merari, the rest of the Levites from the tribe of Zebulun, Yokneam with its open land, Karta with its open land, Dimnah with its open land, Nahalal with its open land, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Reuben, Betzer with its open land, Yatzah with its open land, Kedemot with its open land, and Mephaat with its open land, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Gad, Ramoth in Gilad with its open land as a city of refuge for the manslayer, and Mahanaim with its open land, Heshbon with its open land, Yazer with its open land, and 4 cities in all. And all the cities for the children of Merari for their clans, the rest of the clans of the Levites, were by their lot 12 cities. All the cities of the Levites within the possession of the children of Israel were 48 cities with their open lands. Each of these cities had its open land surrounding it. So it was with all these cities. Thus, Yahovah gave to Israel all the land of which he had sworn to give to their fathers, and they took possession of it and dwelt in it. And Yahovah gave them rest all around, according to all that he had sworn to their fathers. And not a man of all their enemies stood against them. Yahovah gave all their enemies into their hand. Not a word failed of any good word which Yahovah had spoken to the house of Yisrael. All came in. Joshua, chapter 22. Then Joshua called for the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh and said to them, You have guarded all that Moses, the servant of Yahovah, commanded you, and have obeyed my voice in all that I commanded you. You have not left your brother these many days, up to this day, but have guarded the charge, the command of Yahovah your Elohim. And now, Yahovah your Elohim has given rest to your brothers as he promised them. So now, return and go to your tents into the land of your possession, which Moses, the servant of Yahovah, gave you beyond the Jordan. Only diligently guard to do the command and the Torah, which Moses, the servant of Yahovah, commanded you, to love Yahovah your Elohim, and to walk in all his ways, and to guard his commands, and to cling to him, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your being. And Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their tents. And to the half tribe of Manasseh, Moses had given a possession in Bashan. But to the other half of it, Joshua gave land among their brothers beyond the Jordan westward. So when Joshua sent them away to their tents, he also blessed them and spoke to them, saying, Return to your tents with great riches, and with very much livestock, and with silver, and with gold, and with bronze, and with iron, and with countless garments. Divide the spoil of your enemies with your brothers. And the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh returned and left the children of Israel at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan, to go to the land of Gilead, to the land of their possession, which they possessed according to the mouth of Yahovah by the hand of Moses. And they came to the districts of the Jordan, which is in the land of Canaan. And the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh built a slaughter place there by the Jordan, a great conspicuous slaughter place. And the children of Israel heard it and said, See, the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh have built a slaughter place opposite the land of Canaan, in the districts of the Jordan, at the border of the children of Israel. And when the children of Israel heard, all the congregation of the children of Israel assembled at Shiloh to go to fight against them. So the children of Israel sent Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, to the children of Reuben and to the children of Gad and to the half tribe of Manasseh into the land of Gilead, and 10 rulers with him, one ruler from each the chief house of every tribe of Israel. And each one was the head of the house of his father among the divisions of Israel. And they came to the children of Reuben and to the children of Gad and to the half tribe of Manasseh to the land of Gilead, and spoke with them, saying, Thus says all the congregation of Yahovah, what is this trespass you have committed against the Elohim of Israel, to turn away this day from following Yahovah, and that you have built for yourselves a slaughter place to rebel against Yahovah this day? Is the crookedness of Peor not enough for us, from which we have not been cleansed till this day, although there was a plague in the congregation of Yahovah, that you turn away today from following Yahovah? And it shall be, if you rebel today against Yahovah, that tomorrow he is wroth with all the congregation of Israel. And indeed, if the land of your possession is unclean, then pass over to the land of the possession of Yahovah, where the dwelling place of Yahovah dwells, and take possession among us. But do not rebel against Yahovah, nor rebel against us by building yourselves a slaughter place besides the slaughter place of Yahovah, our Elohim. Did not Achan, son of Zerach, commit a trespass in that which is under the ban, and wrath fell on all the congregation of Israel? And he was not the only one to die in his crookedness. Then the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh answered and said to the heads of the divisions of Israel, El Elohim Yahovah, El Elohim Yahovah. He knows, and let Israel itself know. If this has been in rebellion, or if in trespass against Yahovah, do not save us this day. If we have built ourselves a slaughter place to turn from following Yahovah, or if to offer ascending offerings or grain offerings on it, or to make slaughterings of peace offerings on it, let Yahovah himself require it. But truly, from fear, for a reason, we did this, saying, in time to come, your sons might speak to our sons, saying, what have you to do with Yahovah Elohim of Israel? For Yahovah has made the Jordan a border between you and us. You children of Reuben and children of Gad, you have no portion with Yahovah. So your sons would make our sons stop fearing Yahovah. So we said, let us now prepare to build ourselves a slaughter place, not for ascending offering nor for slaughtering, but to be a witness between you and us and our generations after us, to do the service of Yahovah before him, with our ascending offerings, with our slaughterings, and with our peace offerings, that your sons should not say to our sons in time to come, you have no portion with Yahovah. So we said that it shall be, when they say this to us or to our generations in time to come, that we shall say, see the pattern of the slaughter place of Yahovah, which our fathers made, though not for ascending offerings nor for slaughterings, but it is a witness between you and us. Far be it from us to rebel against Yahovah and to turn from following Yahovah this day, to build a slaughter place for ascending offerings, for grain offerings, or for slaughterings, besides the slaughter place of Yahovah, our Elohim, which is before his dwelling place. And Phinehas, the priest, and the rulers of the congregation, and the heads of the thousands of Israel who were with him, heard the words that the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the children of Manasseh spoke. And it was good in their eyes. And Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the priest, said to the children of Reuben and to the children of Gad and to the children of Manasseh, today we know that Yahovah is in our midst, because you have not committed against Yahovah this trespass. Now you have delivered the children of Israel out of the hand of Yahovah. And Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the priest, and the rulers returned from the children of Reuben and the children of Gad, and from the land of Gilead to the land of Canaan, to the children of Israel, and brought back word to them. So the matter was good in the eyes of the children of Israel. And the children of Israel blessed Elohim. And they spoke no more of going against to fight to destroy the land where the children of Reuben and Gad dwelt. And the children of Reuben and the children of Gad called the slaughter place a witness between us that Yahovah is Elohim. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So that ends the re-recording of this. And we will be back in about an hour. And we'll pick it up back in Joshua 23. And I'll just quickly raise these set apart hands and say, Jehovah Yeshua, we bless you, we love you, we thank you, we look to you in everything we do. Please let us move in accordance with your will. Please guide us and guard us, protect us and provide for us. Please bless us. Please let every test, trial, and tribulation result in us not being deceived or falling astray to any false mighty ones or false messiahs or false prophets, but yet let it be to give all glory and esteem to you, because we know, as Paul had said, that, quoting Messiah, that Messiah, your strength is made perfect in our weakness, and where we fall short, we always look to you, and even where we come through, we look to you, and even in the strengths you give us, we look to you. Hallelujah. Jehovah Yeshua, please count each and every one of us, however that metric works, of those seeking you, to be counted worthy to escape all that's about to take place, especially in these end times, in these last days. As we prepare for the tribulation, please bless us to be counted worthy, to make it to the place of safety and to follow your plan of escape, and to be blessed to see you, Yeshua, come back on the clouds. Hallelujah. We thank you for the Ruach HaKodesh. In your mighty name and by your blood, we worship you, Yah. Hallelujah. Amen, amen. All right. See you guys back in an hour. Hallelujah. Cheers.